I remained in my room until the night came. I was given food, which looked like soup? The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple of days away. Being that I was only staying the day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. I don't know, it looks fine. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. Mystery chunks, my favorite. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? Just eat it, girl. You've eaten demon food before. You eat it like every day when James cooks for you. I had to try it. I had to eat it. I hadn't eaten in 2 days, even before I came to the demon world. Ah, them pre-wedding nerves. I was pretty certain Diana wouldn't poison me now, and I was fairly sure that she wouldn't serve me anything disgusting. I lifted the spoon that was sitting in the broth, letting it capture some of the stew as it rose. I mean, it wasn't terribly scary to look at. I slowly brought the spoon to my lips, feeling the heat emanate from the stew. A knock rapped on my door, breaking me out of my train of thought. Huh? Come in. The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate holding things I recognized. Bread and cheese. Oh. Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Instantly, I moved the bowl to the nearby table, thankful that I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring me that what was on it was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating, surprisingly, was delicious. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and formed a small goblet in her hand, filled with clear liquid that I assumed to be water. I took it and drank it down, feeling my thirst quench before I let out a sigh. I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating, then we'll head for the ritual.
I looked up at Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for? Was it possible to go home now? As if she read my mind, she smiled and nodded. Click.
We finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
I couldn't continue eating. My mind went into an obsessive frenzy of wanting to go home. I stood up, moving the plate and goblet to the nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to get home, and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and heading for the door, opening it for me and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind her, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home, to the place where I belong. Diana led me down the corridors to the war room where I had originally arrived, to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I had to only assume it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked to the table and took note of what she saw, nodding.
You're in doubt?
This should work.
Stop double-clicking, Mouse. This is getting annoying.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
Oh, that's, encouraging.
This spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
She didn't have to ask. I'm ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath.
O tenebris portas, apriat nobis, largiatur exidium, desiderium.
As she spoke, the table began to glow, as did she. A dark purple aura began to surround her form as she lifted and arched her head back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse at her eyes made me gasp. Warm golden orbs covered her blood-red irises, glowing with magic. She was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The items on the table began to gleam wildly, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to weave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demon stepped back as Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her finger pointed into the air, leading the lights to follow where it directed obediently. She drew a large circle in the air, and the lights followed like a perfect trail, spreading out and forming a large void in the air. As they finally stopped moving, they burst into a bright light, causing the demons and I to cover our eyes from it. It engulfed the room, but died down just as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Diana quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before pulling the tear apart, revealing my bedroom. It's nighttime now. Diana continued to pull the tear open, giving enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through! This is your chance!
I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress and rushed forward, using momentum to jump into the air and forward towards the void. I could almost reach it. I could feel the air conditioning of my room right at my fingertips. I was...
She will never leave this world alive!
How many times must I repeat myself? Blah! Crap. The Demon Lord's voice rang through the air just as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and force, forcing me and Diana back from the opening. Gah! I felt my body fly backwards and slam into the wall before I landed on the stone ground. I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lightning, zipping itself closed and vanishing into thin air. Hope I didn't lose my fingers in there. Stop. First you don't click, then you double click. What is happening, Mouse? Talk to me. No. No, this could not be.
Damn it!
That should have worked! How could it have failed?
We must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No. I verified everything myself.
Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell?
I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Are you all right, Isaiah?
I'm fine.
I was too lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close. I felt the other side. I had almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Diana's grunt of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her, and I watched her slowly push herself off of the ground and glare at the table.
The Demon Lord must have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done?
Now, the Demon Lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
A curse.
I looked to the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demon stared at me as well, and suddenly I felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane. In order to leave, she'd have to die.
What if we just kill the person who cast the curse? Stay? What? My mind went blank. Did the Demon Lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse?
That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
But dark magic like that requires...
Blood of 1,000 demons. He must have sacrificed part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
Sheesh.
The Demon Lord is that desperate for her.
The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster, the Demon Lord himself.
See? I'm already ahead of you.
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The Demon Lord killed 1,000 demons. Just to trap me here. Why? Why? I slammed my fist into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home! Why? I could feel the sympathy and anger in the room, but I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. Angel always screams all the time. You gotta hold yourself, girl. Slap. Ah! As my voice ripped through the air, a bright light erupted through the room once again. Everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get on her knees and covered me with her body. She held me tightly as the light invaded the space and slowly began to fade. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned his spear and pointed it at the tear, glaring at it and gritting his teeth. Maybe my boo's finally coming to save me.
Something's coming!
In reply, Diana summoned what looked like a saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves! It could be the Demon Lord!
The other demons in the room readied themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air change, becoming heavier as the tear began to grow. The energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room that much more tense. Actually, there's an idea. Why didn't I just call for Raestro? He would have come to my aid, like, right away. Or does that only work in the same realm? We should have thought of that, though, at some point. Trying it, at the very least. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the Demon Lord? His minions? My mind began to cycle through fearful ideas of what was about to appear. All the boys came! I recognized Matthew and Sam's screams anyway. My heart almost stopped. Fallen from the tear and landing on the table were the 5 Incubi Brothers. They were piled on top of one another, having come through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell to one side, toppling off the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of Incubi, confused and surprised. As the tear in the air closed, the ogre man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell?
Who are they?
Careful! They could be the Demon Lord's men!
No! The rebels looked to me as I stood up, Diana following and still protecting me, and I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from having fallen twice in rapid succession. I almost couldn't believe it. There they were, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I had first met them. They had all been on the floor of my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they were in front of me in the demon world. Whoops. Before you guys pop up, I know them. Bloop. I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to rescue me. He came to rescue me. My heart became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was going to go home. Oh, how do you figure that, girl? Gonna ask him to kill you so he can take your body back? The question was, how? As the sight of the boys kept the demons' attention, a second tear opened above them, causing everyone to look up. 4 women dropped down from the tear and somehow managed to fall into the arms of the Incubi behind James. I was gonna ask, I'm like, oh, Sam, you left your wife at home? Does everybody else have wives? I'm the last one to get married. This is a terrible situation. I also feel bad now, because if they all are married, then I'm gonna feel bad about taking the one brother, because that brother will never meet said lady, and James will have a wife in the next route I do, which would be Eric's, I guess. Don't know how to feel about this.
Whoa!
Hey, Carrie.
I gotcha.
Oh, you are so adorable. You're so cute, Twyla.
Whoa, are you okay?
Matthew's sister? Looks so much like Matthew.
I gotcha, it's okay.
Eric!
Oh my, so fabulous. Fancy.
Love, I've got you.
Aw. I'm gonna feel so bad. I don't want to break any of these couples up. Blech. Curse my heart. I stared wide-eyed. Their wives came too? Angel, you gotta pick up your pace, girl. I watched as the boys and the girls finally planted themselves on the ground before looking around. As James spotted me, however, he quickly rushed over.
Love!
James! To my surprise, Diana quickly moved out of the way, allowing him to approach and wrap his arms around me. The feeling of his body against mine sent a shiver up my spine. He was really here. I instantly wrapped my arms around his body, burying my face in his shoulder and taking in his scent. His head gently nuzzled into my shoulder as James crawled over to bring my body close to him.
Thank God you're safe.
You came for me. I could barely believe it, but I did. The scent of his cologne and the texture of his clothing let me know that I wasn't dreaming. He came to find me. Now the question was, how would we both leave? It's not our fault, by the way. James gently loosened his embrace and looked at Diana, who was standing by our side and watching. I couldn't see his expression, but Diana stared wide-eyed, almost in fear of James. Why? As James began to speak, I felt some sort of violent power change in the room. While Diana held dominance before the Incubi had arrived, it was practically ripped from her as James claimed me once again in his arms.
Care to explain why my bride is here, Diana?
Your father.
I looked up at James to see him staring Diana down as if he didn't believe her explanation. Tighten the hug. Boo. I tightened my hug around his chest, earning a soft squeeze from him in return, but he continued to glare at Diana.
And why have you not sent her back?
She has tried, my dude.
Again, your father.
I watched as James's eyes closed further, almost hiding his whiskey-brown irises in an unimpressed and unconvinced glare.
As much as I despise my father, why do I have a hard time believing that?
I mean, I understand, but you need to hear the story. From beside Diana, the spare guard stepped up and crossed his spear across Diana's body in an act of protection. He seemed unfazed by James's glare and almost felt like he was challenging him from the power play thrashing in the air. It was like James and Diana were opposing alphas and the guard was a protective mate.
Believe what you will. My lady was about to send her back before you came.
James looked at the guard and visibly sized him up and didn't look all that impressed. The guard glared, tightening his grip on his spear, but remained beside his mistress. As James looked back to Diana, his hold on me tightened.
Go on.
Diana sighed softly and placed a hand on the guard's shoulder, looking at him, but the guard refused to turn himself or his spear away from me and James.
He cast a curse on your bride-to-be, barring her from leaving this world alive.
A curse?
Yes. She can't leave this world unless she dies, or until we kill the Demon Lord.
That's a bit rough, isn't it? Gonna have to kill your father for me to leave. I could feel James's arms tense around me. For some reason, the look in his eyes changed from anger to almost hopefulness. Was he hoping that we would be able to leave? I hope so.
Now, I must ask that you recognize whose kindness you are testing.
Oh, Sarah, you don't want to open that bag of worms.
Settle.
Diana tightened her hand on her guard's shoulder, almost digging her nails into his jacket. However, her eyes remained on James, now submissive to his dominant stare on her.
We have been fighting him consistently and have successfully pinned him into a corner. Our next attack will be on the Demon Lord's castle, and it will be the final battle.
Succubus, if I may...
No, you may not.
If I may. The lanky man stared wide-eyed at Diana, but she ignored him. Instead, she continued to stare up at James, unfazed at her harsh tone towards her companion. James eventually released me from his embrace and faced Diana and her guard, standing tall and almost looking down his nose at them.
And when do you plan to attack him?
With a nasty snarl, the larger demon male stepped forward and glared hard at James. I felt my body tense in reflex, but James continued to stand tall.
Why the fuck should we tell you?
1 week's time.
She just answers. Everyone in the room shot their heads towards Diana, mostly in shock or surprise.
What? 1 week?
I looked at Diana, watching her unable to turn away from James's gaze. She wasn't entranced, but it seemed as if she wasn't able to even pull away from the gaze battle between them out of fear.
Where is this number coming from, Succubus?
We need to fully prepare ourselves for the final stage, which I'm certain will only take a couple of days. We've pinned him into a corner. The Demon Lord will fall.
That's rather bold to assume.
She's right, though. We can prepare everything in that time frame, right?
And if he does the same and attacks us before then?
He won't.
I watched watched as Diana walked over and cleared the table of the materials they had gathered for the gate spell, revealing a physical map of the Abyssal Plains. She pointed to a spot on the map, a peninsula surrounded by water labeled as the Decaying Sea.
We'll cast a barrier spell along the edge of the peninsula and around the castle. He and his army won't be able to move from that spot until we break it ourselves, which will be during the siege.
Where would we get the energy needed for that kind of spell?
We won't be using energy.
The other rebel demons in the room suddenly tensed up, staring at Diana in surprise. What was she going to do?
My lady, you're not suggesting...
The Demon Lord has shown how far he is willing to go to win this war. It's only fitting to show the extent we'll go to in response.
As much as I agree with you, this seems a little rash.
What are you guys talking about?
Thank you, Matthew.
Are they allowed to know?
I plan to put a barrier curse around the Demon Lord's castle and army. It's temporary, so it won't need the blood of 1,000 demons. But it will need the sacrifice of at least one demon life.
Okay.
And I assume you'll be sacrificing one of my soldiers.
Is this our only option?
There are other options, but they will most likely take a lot of energy to pull off.
Is that Suzu? The more I listen to her, I'm wondering if that's Suzu's voice actress now.
It just depends on what we want to do. If we want to do this immediately, then the barrier curse is indeed the best option.
I'm not opposed to performing the curse. As rash as it is, it will make our lives easier in the long run.
You expect me to hand over one of my men? My soldiers joined the rebellion to kill the Demon Lord, not to get their throats slit before even seeing the final battle?
It's wrong, but can we really afford to spend any more energy? Diana already spent a lot trying to send the human back.
What is the other option?
Yeah, can we talk about the other option, please? The rabbit woman and the fairy moved towards the map and pointed at the peninsula. We really need to find out these people's names.
We could form tall rock walls around the castle. Box them in.
It will take a lot of our energy, but we can recover in that week period.
And what will stop the Demon Lord from tearing down the walls?
I can imbue the walls with holy magic.
Ooh. The Incubi and I looked at him, all of us equally surprised. A demon with holy magic? How? 'Cause he's actually half angel.
How the fuck did you get holy magic? You look and smell like a demon.
The guard held up his wrapped hand, letting the beads around it jangle with a sudden motion.
I've had the ability to use holy magic ever since I was taken in by my lady's family. There's no doubt that I am a demon, but I can't recall how I gained this ability.
How is holy magic different than demon magic?
It's white magic. Unlike demon magic, holy magic isn't so finicky. Think of it as warding or dispelling magic. You can't bless air or anything that doesn't have physical form, but you can bless objects to fight back against other forms of magic.
If the walls were blessed with holy magic, the Demon Lord wouldn't be able to escape until we released him.
Why not just trap him forever?
That's idiotic. He would still be a threat regardless. Holy magic doesn't last forever. And stone will crumble eventually.
Yeah.
He's right. We wouldn't be able to keep the walls up forever.
The situation became more and more complicated the more we discussed it. How are we going to go about this?
We can't just sit around and debate this forever. The longer we wait, the more we risk him striking back at us.
But is it worth killing someone to trap him?
When we finally strike, we will lose hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers anyway. What difference will it make to lose one more life on top of this?
I don't know. It depends if the person is willing to, give their life, as opposed to just hey, come with me into this room with a lot of candles and stuff. We're totally not doing a blood sacrifice. And then they just don't know.
Soulless fuck.
Damn.
We can still cage him in.
I bit my lip. It was a really tough decision. A curse or a trap, which was better? Both had their prices, but we had to choose one. From the look of it, no one wanted to speak up, so I felt the urge to say something. Maybe I would be the one who would determine everything, because, you know, I know the most about what's going on and have the most experience in the room, so why shouldn't I choose? On that note, boop. The which method would be the best choice? Well, I'll say that James didn't seem to be a fan of the whole curse thing, so let's try the trap. I say the trap. Better than the tyrant. It's true, that's the other thing. Whether it's 1 or 1,000, you're using the same methods against him, so you're no better than what you're trying to get rid of. Everyone in the room looked at me as I finally spoke up. We needed to be better than the Demon Lord. He was willing to sacrifice lives to trap me here, but it only showed how desperate he was to win and how little he valued life. He would lose this war one way or another. Whoops. It wasn't worth losing someone who could help turn the tide of war. When can you put a barrier up?
We can leave after this, meeting is over.
Meeting.
Are you sure this is the best choice?
It's a choice. The curse isn't the only option. We need to show that we're better than him. Everyone nodded, some in reluctance, while the others did with confidence. I looked at Diana just in time to catch a twitch from her visible eye, but she shook her head and looked to the rabbit woman.
Are you quite positive this will work?
I am very certain. Since it will be just 3 of us going, we can shadow travel there and be back by the morning.
Diana looked at her guard and nodded.
Very well. If you believe it will work, then I trust you will make sure it does.
As the guard nodded and slightly bowed, the other demons seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Were they worried about performing the curse? Diana shook her head before crossing her arms and looking directly at me.
So, since you'll be here for a while, we might as well give you names that you can use to refer to everyone here.
That would be handy.
Are we getting human names?
Oh boy.
Must we?
Can't you just use your regular names? I mean, it can't be that complicated. Diana rolled her eyes and gestured to each demon, naming them on the fly. This ought to be good.
For the sake of time, we'll use simple names. This is Rabbit, our magic advisor. Sergeant, commander of our armies. Shadow, leader of our assassins. And Faye, our nomadic force ambassador.
Well, that should be pretty easy to remember.
Sergeant, I'm a commander, succubus. Shouldn't my name be Commander?
It's easier on the tongue, though, to say Sergeant.
My lady, what shall they call me?
Diana looked at Sarah for a moment before turning towards me, a look of seriousness emanating from her eyes.
You may call him Cero. He is my personal guard, and he is always by my side.
You get to keep your name, Sarah. Be honored. The other demons and Sarah seemed to be surprised. Was Sarah his true demon name? Why would she give me his true name?
Are you sure?
Call him only if your life depends on it. Do not abuse this permission.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking about that as she said it, and why they're all surprised, because it's like, if you know his true names, you could just, like, call for him anytime. Her eyes seemed to burn as she gazed into mine, full of hard intent and warning. I mentally noted her seriousness as she ran a hand through her hair.
Well, now that we have a plan and introductions are out of the way, I believe we can end this meeting. We have a lot to accomplish in 1 week.
What about us? You don't expect us to sit around.
Actually, I do. You all don't belong on the battlefield.
Wait, hold on. That's not fair.
I will not take untrained and unarmed beings into a war zone.
Well, the boys are hardly untrained. Hold on. I interjected, stepping forward and crossing my arms at Diana. She seriously wasn't going to make us stay back while she fought the Demon Lord, was she? That's not fair, Diana. We can fight too. Diana squinted at me, pressing her lips together into a fine line. However, I meant what I said. We could fight too.
You expect me to trust that you can fight in a war?
Let me and my brothers train then. We're demons, for fuck's sake. We know how to fight.
Yeah, for real though. The boy stared at Diana as she turned her head towards Sam. He was right though. They knew how to fight, so they knew how to train, so they knew how to fight. If they fought with the rebellion, there would be a better chance of winning this war.
You all realize this is a war, correct? You can die here.
We understand completely.
We do too, Diana.
I just realized she's got the cutest cat thigh highs. Oh, I want those. Cute. Sorry, completely off topic for the seriousness of what's going on, but I'm like, oh, cat thigh highs. Diana could only stare at our group as we challenged her proclamation. I wrapped my hand around my fiancé's arm, frightened at the idea of participating in a war, but knowing that we needed all the strength we could muster to finish off the Demon Lord. This was the only way that I could go home. Defeated, Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Very well. I can't exactly keep you here like prisoners, so it will be up to you if you choose to train for battle. However, I highly suggest just staying here and allowing us to handle it.
I nodded, as did the others. This was really happening. We were going to kill the Demon Lord, and we had 1 week to either prepare for war or wait it out. Diana turned towards me and looked down at my outfit. I had nearly forgotten that I was still in my wedding dress until Diana pointed at my chest.
Lumen infere, bellum tabescere, serene.
I stared at her, unsure of why she was speaking in Latin, until I felt the fabric around my body shift and change. I quickly looked down to see my wedding dress morph into an outfit that looked perfect for the demon world. The white top shifted into a long-sleeved, oversized tunic with a leather corset and vest, while the bottom part of the gown split and wrapped around my legs, forming into dark leggings. My shoes stretched into long, knee-high boots. Wish we could see this.
Wow, that's so cool.
I blushed, getting used to the feel of the outfit. The corset wasn't tight, but it was still something new along with the rest of the garb. James, however, smiled down at me and kissed over my forehead.
We'll save the wedding dress for when we return.
Sounds good. Right.
Faye, Rabbit, you both should finish your preparations and head over to the Demon Lord's castle for the spell.
How are you going to get there?
I'll get us there, no problem.
Just make sure we don't get stuck there or lost.
No promises.
Zero, make sure the job is done.
I shall, my lady.
Sarah, Faye, and Rabbit began to make their way out of the room as Diana turned to me and my group. As they left, Diana let out a small sigh.
I will take you to some rooms you may rest in.
Thank you, Diana. Diana merely nodded and led our group out of the room towards our new temporary rooms.